Silence. Breathe. Feel the stillness around you. Do you hear it? That subtle vibration beneath the surface of everything. That whisper that has been echoing through your chest for days, months, maybe even lifetimes. It's not your imagination. It's not coincidence. It's the sound of your sacred feminine awakening. You are not here by accident. You didn't just scroll to this message. You were led here by design, by timing, by divine alignment, because something within you is shifting. Something ancient, something powerful, something that has been asleep for too long, and now it begins to stir. You've been feeling it lately, haven't you? A strange pull you can't explain, a heaviness in crowded places, a longing for quiet, an ache for peace, a sensitivity that feels both gift and burden. You've been shedding old versions of yourself, the one who tried to please, the one who overgave, the one who apologized for her light. And though that shedding feels painful, what's really happening is rebirth. You're being called home, to your truth, your power, your divine rhythm. The sacred feminine is not a trend. It is not about control. It is not rebellion. It is remembrance, the remembrance of what was divine before it was silenced. For thousands of years, the feminine essence, intuition, compassion, creation, nurture, divine knowing, was buried under fear, shame, and survival. But the time has come. Heaven is restoring what was lost. And it begins within you. You are the vessel. You are the bridge. You are the altar where heaven and earth meet. That's why your spirit has been restless. That's why your emotions have been louder. That's why the things that used to satisfy you no longer do. Because you are rising. Because the old energy cannot hold what is now being born inside you. Because your spirit knows what your mind hasn't yet caught up to. You are becoming something more. The divine feminine awakening is not gentle, it's holy fire. It burns away illusion. It strips away false identity. It dismantles everything that isn't love. And that's why it feels like you're breaking. But you're not breaking. You're opening. Your pain is not punishment. It's purification. You've been crying, praying, questioning, feeling. You've been wondering why you've grown so distant from some people, why noise irritates you, why you crave silence, why you can't fake what you once tolerated. It's because your soul refuses to play small any longer. You're no longer available for the shallow. You're too deep for small talk, too wise for confusion, too awake for illusion. You are transitioning from reaction to revelation, from anxiety to awareness, from survival to surrender. Heaven has chosen you for this very hour, to embody divine balance, to walk in both softness and strength. The sacred feminine is the harmony of both, gentle and fierce, calm and wild, quiet and thunderous. It's the energy that nurtures creation, but protects what's sacred with holy fire. You are learning that power doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers, sometimes it smiles. Sometimes it simply stands, unshaken. The divine feminine doesn't need to demand. She doesn't chase. She attracts, because she knows what is meant for her is already written. She doesn't fight for validation. She embodies it. She doesn't prove her worth. She radiates it. She doesn't beg for love. She is love. And now, chosen one, heaven is asking you to remember that truth again. To remember that you were never meant to compete, you were meant to create. That your purpose was never to be seen, it was to see. That you were never made to dominate, you were made to illuminate. Every storm you've endured, every betrayal, every loss, every unanswered prayer, they were not mistakes. They were awakenings in disguise. They were the chisels shaping the temple of your soul. The pain didn't come to destroy you. It came to reveal you, to awaken the woman you buried to survive, to reconnect you to your divine rhythm. The rhythm that moves with the moon, breathes with the earth, and beats in time with heaven's heart. This awakening is not happening to you. It's happening for you. You are being reintroduced to yourself, the version of you that God designed before the world told you who to be. And yes, it can feel lonely. Because awakening often begins with separation. Heaven isolates before it elevates. It hides you to heal you. It silences you to strengthen you. It removes so that it can refill. You are not being punished. You are being preserved. You are not being ignored. You are being instructed. The solitude you feel right now is the classroom of your spirit. Heaven is teaching you how to walk again, slowly, softly, in rhythm with divine timing. You used to push. Now you flow. You used to plan. Now you trust. You used to fear. Now you remember, this is not weakness. This is wisdom. The sacred feminine knows that her power is not in resistance, but in surrender. She doesn't control the storm. She dances with it. She doesn't fear the fire. She becomes it. She doesn't fight darkness. She illuminates it simply by existing. That's why you've felt your emotions more deeply lately. Because the divine uses feeling as a frequency. Through your tears, he's cleansing. Through your silence, he's speaking. Through your longing, he's calling. You are remembering your sacred language, intuition. The divine whisper in your bones. The knowing that needs no logic. The inner voice that says, this is not for me, or this is where I'm meant to be. You are learning to trust that voice again. To stop doubting what your spirit already knows. To stop betraying yourself for comfort. To stop shrinking for acceptance. Because when a chosen woman betrays her spirit to be liked, she loses her light to be seen. But when she honors her truth even in solitude, heaven begins to move on her behalf. This is where your story changes. This is where you begin to walk with divine confidence, no longer begging to be understood but resting in being known. There comes a moment in every chosen one's life when the world feels too loud to stay the same. When the laughter around you no longer comforts but drains. When the conversations you once loved now echo with emptiness. When you start to see, not with your eyes but with your soul, that most people speak from wounds, not wisdom. And that realization changes everything. You begin to crave authenticity. You start to long for energy that feels like prayer, for presence that feels like peace. You find yourself walking away from chaos, not out of pride, but out of preservation. Because your spirit now recognizes the difference between attention and alignment, and it refuses to trade purpose for noise anymore. The sacred feminine doesn't need the crowd. She needs connection. She doesn't seek recognition, she seeks resonance. She doesn't build kingdoms of approval, she builds altars of truth. You are learning that peace is the highest currency, and when heaven awakens that awareness in you, you start to see how much of the world runs on anxiety. You realize how many people confuse movement with progress and distraction with direction. But you were never meant to run with the crowd. You were meant to move with the wind of the spirit. The sacred feminine walks differently. She listens before she speaks. She feels before she reacts. She pauses before she chooses. Because she knows her choices create ripples in realms unseen. She knows that every yes must be holy and every no must be firm. And that chosen one is why God is isolating you. He's tuning your frequency so you can carry the next phase of your assignment without distortion. He's quieting the noise around you so you can finally hear what's being whispered within you. You're not losing people, you're gaining clarity. You're not falling behind. You're falling in line with divine timing. When the sacred feminine rises, she doesn't rush. She doesn't compete. She moves when heaven moves, because her steps are no longer random, they are rhythmic. Her walk is not reactive, it's prophetic. She no longer measures time by calendars, but by confirmations. You may not see it now, but this isolation is sacred. It's the womb of your becoming. Heaven hides what it's about to reveal. It conceals what it intends to crown. That's why your life feels paused. It's not a stop. It's a gestation. Something holy is forming inside you. And like every sacred birth, it takes time, stillness, and surrender. Do you feel the pull to rest lately? The exhaustion that makes no sense? That's not laziness, and that's realignment. Your body is syncing with your spirit. Your heart is detoxing from the noise. Your nervous system is being reprogrammed for peace. Because the feminine energy within you cannot thrive in fight or flight. It blooms in stillness. You are being taught to rest. Not because there's nothing to do, but because heaven does its best work when you stop forcing and start flowing. Rest is your rebellion. Silence is your sanctuary. Patience is your power. And in that stillness, something sacred happens. You start to hear your true self again. The voice you silenced to please others. The intuition you buried to fit in. The wisdom you ignored to avoid conflict. Now it all returns, stronger, wiser, anchored in grace. The divine feminine doesn't chase validation. She doesn't explain her energy. She doesn't lower her tone to be digestible, because she knows that her presence alone is medicine. Where she walks, peace follows. Where she speaks, truth resonates. Where she prays, the unseen rearranges, and yet this awakening also exposes what must be healed. Old wounds, forgotten memories, suppressed emotions, they rise to the surface. Not to haunt you, but to free you. Because you cannot carry divine energy in a wounded vessel, and you cannot pour healing from a cup filled with bitterness. So the divine process continues. You cry not because you're weak, but because you're cleansing. You forgive not because they deserve it, but because your peace demands it. You release not because you're cold, but because your spirit knows what must go, cannot stay. Each tear, each letting go, each prayer whispered in the dark. It's oil being pressed from your soul. You're not breaking down, you're breaking open. Heaven is not dismantling you, it's refining you. The fire you feel is not destruction, it's sanctification. Chosen one, your sacred feminine awakening is heaven's way of returning you to your original design. The woman who moves in wisdom, walks in softness, and speaks with authority. Not the authority of ego, but of essence. You carry light, you carry lineage, you carry legacy. There's a reason darkness has tried so hard to distract you, because a healed woman is a threat to every system built on fear. When a woman remembers who she is, she shifts generations. When she reclaims her worth, she rewrites family patterns. When she reconnects to God, she restores entire bloodlines. That's what's happening right now through you. The world doesn't need more noise. It needs more women who remember their sacred nature. Women who lead from love, who nurture with strength, who hold their boundaries as prayer, who speak truth like prophecy. You are that woman. You are that chosen one. And heaven is whispering, daughter, rise. Rise from the ashes of who you were told to be. Rise from the lies that said your softness was weakness. Rise from the cycles that kept you small. Rise and return to yourself, to source, to sacredness. You don't need to fight for space anymore. You are the space. You don't need to beg for belonging. You belong wherever you stand. You don't need to chase purpose. You are purpose embodied. The awakening is not loud. It's not chaotic. It's holy. It's gentle. It's patient. It's love. Remember, there is a sacred moment in every awakening. The moment when heaven stops feeling distant and begins to breathe within you. When prayer stops being words and becomes rhythm. When you realize that the presence you've been searching for has been living inside you all along. You start to notice it in the smallest things. In the way the sunlight touches your skin. In the stillness between heartbeats. In the whispers of intuition that sound like peace. It's not new. It's you, finally remembering. The divine feminine within you has always been there, but for years she was silenced by fear, by survival, by the noise of a world that forgot how to feel. Now heaven is saying enough. The veil is lifting, and your soul remembers who she is. You are not broken. You are blooming. You are not lost. You are being led. You are not behind. You are being prepared. Every disappointment was divine redirection. Every closed door was protection. Every tear watered the garden of your rebirth. You see, chosen one, the feminine doesn't awaken through success. She awakens through surrender. Not through doing more, but through remembering more deeply. And that remembering brings both beauty and ache, because awakening requires honesty. It asks you to face yourself, to hold your shadows with compassion, and to stop pretending to be smaller than you are. That's why your spirit has been restless. Because the part of you that has been dimmed for too long refuses to stay quiet any longer. She wants to speak, she wants to dance, she wants to create, she wants to love again, fully, freely, fiercely. You can feel it, can't you? That sacred fire returning to your chest. That light in your eyes that had faded now starting to burn again. That soft strength, unshakable and holy. It's the divine saying, "Daughter, you are mine." And it's time. Heaven is calling you back to your nature, to intuition over intellect, to peace over performance, to essence over ego. You don't need to prove your worth anymore. You don't need to hustle for approval. The sacred feminine walks with grace, not with grind. Her timing is divine and her energy is medicine. When she speaks, heaven listens. When she prays, storms still. When she weeps, angels move. That's the power you carry. Not the kind that controls, but the kind that restores. But restoration requires release. And this, chosen one, is where the refining deepens. The awakening asks you to let go of every false identity, every expectation, every illusion of who you had to be loved. It hurts to let go. It feels like dying. And in a way it is, a sacred death of everything that's not true. But only what's false can die. The real you remains. The eternal you rises. So when you feel yourself unraveling, don't resist it. Honor it. Because unraveling is how heaven weaves new garments of glory. It's how your story shifts from survival to significance. It's how your heart becomes pure enough to carry divine instruction. And then, one day, something changes quietly. You wake up and notice that the ache has turned into peace, the confusion into clarity, the loneliness into presence. You realize that the solitude you once feared was actually the place where heaven sat beside you all along. That's the beauty of the sacred feminine. She learns to see God not only in temples and prayers, but in her laughter, in her rest, in her art. In her silence, she becomes a living sanctuary, a moving altar of grace. And from that space, she begins to influence everything around her without saying a word. Because true power never has to announce itself. It simply is. That's what you're becoming. That's what heaven is birthing through you. A quiet revolution of light. Every time you choose compassion over comparison, you shift the atmosphere. Every time you respond with patience instead of pride, you realign energy. Every time you forgive, you rewrite generations. Every time you pray, you release light into the earth. The feminine awakening is not only about you, it's about everything connected to you. You are a portal of healing for your lineage. When you heal, your ancestors rest. When you forgive, your bloodline breathes again. When you rise, you carry nations within your womb. That's why the warfare was so intense. Because darkness knew your womb is not just biological, it's prophetic. It's where heaven plants destiny. It's where divine purpose incubates. And the moment you remember who you are, you become unstoppable. So rise, chosen one. Rise, even if your voice shakes. Rise, even if your knees tremble. Rise because heaven stands with you. Rise, because every angel that watched you cry is now rejoicing at your awakening. You were never too emotional. You were empathetic. You were never too sensitive. You were spiritual. You were never too much. You were more than this world could hold. The divine feminine doesn't shrink. She expands. She fills every space with love, with truth, with light. And that is exactly what the world needs right now. Your light, your love, your presence. You are heaven's answer to someone's prayer. The light in you was never meant to blend in. It was meant to reveal. And that's why life has tested you so deeply. Because before a vessel can pour light, it must be purified by it. Every heartbreak refined your compassion. Every silence sharpened your discernment. Every delay taught you patience. Every loss taught you love. You were never forgotten. You were being forged. You were being taught how to walk with heaven's pace, how to move with divine rhythm, how to love without losing yourself. And now, chosen one, heaven says, she's ready. Ready not to perform, but to be. Ready not to impress, but to influence. ready not to prove but to presence. The sacred feminine doesn't announce her awakening. She embodies it. She doesn't chase her purpose. She becomes it. And from that stillness, the world begins to shift. You'll notice it in the way people start coming to you, not for attention, but for alignment. They will feel safe in your presence, even if they can't explain why. Because you carry heaven's calm. Because you've become a mirror of peace in a world addicted to noise. You are the living evidence that gentleness is not weakness. That softness can still carry fire. That grace can still be a weapon. You are what happens when a woman surrenders everything that isn't her and allows God to rebuild her from the inside out. And now, the rebuilding is complete. The veil is torn. The frequency of your spirit has risen. The divine balance of your being is restored. You are not who you were last season. You are the healed version of every heartbreak, the refined version of every trial, the resurrected version of every time you thought it was over. When heaven calls you chosen, it's not flattery, it's assignment. It means you are trusted to feel deeper, to see beyond illusion, to hold light in places others abandon. You are the keeper of sacred order, the guardian of divine intuition, the one who bridges the invisible and the seen. You are both storm and stillness, both moon and fire, both womb and word. That's why you couldn't stay in certain spaces. They weren't meant to hold what you carry. Your frequency no longer fits the noise. Your energy no longer tolerates distortion, because the divine within you has recalibrated everything. And now you walk different. You speak different. You move different. Not because you're trying to be spiritual, but because you are spirit embodied. The awakening isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's not about shining brighter. It's about shining truer. It's not about being more powerful. It's about being more peaceful. You are learning the highest language of heaven. Rest. Rest in who you are. Rest in what you carry. Rest in the divine timing that never fails. You are no longer in the waiting. You are in the becoming. And as you become, the world begins to shift around you. Hearts soften. Rooms quiet. Light returns. Because when a chosen woman remembers her sacred nature, heaven doesn't just celebrate, it moves. The ground beneath her starts to respond to her obedience. Creation itself begins to align with her frequency. That's what's happening right now. Heaven is aligning with your yes. Angels are recording your surrender. The Spirit is breathing through your voice. And everything around you begins to transform. The divine feminine is not just rising, she is returning. Returning to purity, returning to balance, returning to her origin, God's reflection in motion. So, chosen one, this is your moment. Not to rush, but to reverence. Not to strive, but to stand. Not to chase, but to channel. Heaven is not asking you to be louder. Heaven is asking you to be truer. The world needs your voice, but even more, it needs your vibration. Your peace will speak louder than any sermon. Your stillness will calm storms you'll never see. Your light will heal people you'll never meet. And when doubt whispers, when fear tries to return, when exhaustion tempts you to forget, remember this truth. You are not becoming something new. You are remembering something eternal. You are not just awakening the sacred feminine. You are the sacred feminine remembering herself through divine grace. And from this moment forward, you will never again question your sensitivity, your empathy, your intuition, because they are not weaknesses, they are languages of heaven. This is your era of remembrance, your season of restoration, your chapter of divine revelation. You are rising, and this time you won't shrink back. This time you won't apologize for your light. This time you won't dim to fit in, because this time you know who you are. You are the reflection of the Most High, the expression of divine love, the voice of restoration in a world that forgot how to listen. You are not just chosen, you are anointed. You are becoming prophecy in motion. So rise, chosen one. Rise with grace. Rise with authority. Rise with the quiet, knowing that heaven stands behind you. And when you rise, The earth itself will breathe a sigh of relief. Because every time a woman remembers who she is, heaven expands on earth. This is your time, your awakening, your return. Let your sacred feminine lead you home. Back to truth, back to love, back to God. If this message resonated with your spirit, type "I am awakening" in the comments right now. Let heaven know that you've heard the call. Share this message with another chosen one who needs to remember her divine nature. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to Chosen Lightfire so you don't miss the next prophetic message heaven has prepared for you. Until next time, stay aligned, stay anchored, and stay awake, because the light within you is the answer someone has been praying for.